So the 2025 WNBA draft obviously is headlined by Paige Bueckers. Paige Bueckers, one of the best players that there's been. Obviously, she could have came out last year, but if she was in last year's draft, she would have been the number 2 to Caitlin Clark. She would not have been the main player in the draft. It would have, but this is the Paige Bueckers draft. She is. You could argue she definitely made the right decision if it is about the draft kind of being based around her, because we're going into the Paige draft. We're going into the Paige Bueckers draft, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about that this year. But anyway, we're going to be doing a mock draft. Obviously, the draft lottery is in a week. We can make a better draft at that stage. But right now, I'd use Tankathon, and my lottery came out to this. Yep. The Mystics with a 10% chance with number 1. LA with 2. We had Dallas at 3, Chicago at 4, and then obviously 5 through 12 are all the same. So, without further ado, number 1 pick, the Washington Mystics. Yes, the Washington Mystics select Paige Bueckers. That is all of the Mystics' problems sorted. It means the Mystics don't need to tank. It means the Mystics can go for it. Like, the Washington Mystics getting Paige Bueckers means they can go out next year with a lineup of Paige at the 1. You've got Sykes and Atkins at the 2 and 3. Who, again, like, the 3 of those players together will all be, like, any of them can dribble the ball. They can all be solid. Then at the 4, you're going to go out with Shakira Austin. And at the 5, you're still probably running with Steph Dolson. That is a 5 seed. That team, especially when you've got a bench of, you're probably going to lose Jade Melbourne in the expansion draft. And you'll know anyway before whether or not you're going to get Paige before the expansion draft. So it means you're probably going to lose Melbourne. But if you can keep Julie Van Loo as a good backup point guard. Emily Ensler is a great bench player. Aaliyah Edwards is a great bench player. Carly Samuelson's a great bench player. Sika Kone is going to be a good bench player. You have got the most depth of any WNBA team. And if Paige Bueckers somehow 10% looks into going to the Mystics like I had there, it is going to be one of the craziest things. But the number 2 pick in the draft is going to be the LA Sparks, who everyone thought it was going to be Paige Bueckers. And in this scenario, you're not going to be, for me, you don't take Kiki Riafan. You're going to keep Diarca Hamby, you're going to keep Cameron Brink. You are not going to, it's unlikely you're going to take Kiki. Because if you take Kiki, it basically means you're going to have to get off Hamby. And I don't think that's something that the Sparks are necessarily going to do. Like, they fired their coach for tanking, so maybe they're not trying to be terrible. But with the number 2 pick, the LA Sparks take Olivia Miles. Point guard play was where the Sparks really struggled last year, until realistically, even when they brought in Odyssey Sims, they were still starting Crystal Dangerfield at stages last season. They really struggled at the point guard. And you've already got your wing scoring in Rickea Jackson sorted. Cameron Brink's a really good player, and Hamby still has another few good years left in her. Especially if you are looking to be, like, long-term, she's someone that can run the show. She's someone that's going to get the ball to better players on the court. And, yeah, I think she could be a really, really good fit for the LA Sparks. And at the number 3 pick is the Dallas Wings. And Dallas, realistically, unless Dallas get number 1, I think no matter what, Kiki Riafan is going to go to Dallas. So, she looked good in her first game. She looked really good. I was impressed by the mid-range shooting, a little more of the post-game. Her jumper looks good. I don't think she's going to be a mid-range or a three-point shooter soon, but we could probably see her at some stage develop a bit of a 3-ball. A lot of comparisons to Nafisa Collier. I don't quite see it yet, but Kiki Riafan could be a very, very good player quickly. She's already a good defender, and yeah, taking her at 2 could be very interesting. Running with her and Brink, again, just like in Stanford. But I just think that you can't play her, Brink, and Hamby at the same time. So I think they will take like an Olivia Miles there. But I do think at 3 for the Dallas Wings, especially if they do end up keeping Satu, when you've got like Satu, Kiki, and for me, I would look to try get off TR McCown. I think you don't need 2 giant 6'7" centers. I would run Kiki at the 5 and run Satu as like a small ball 4. I think that's probably where they're going to be at their most effective next year. But we got Kiki in here at number 3. So number 4 pick is going to go to the Chicago Sky, and this is going to be a bit of a weird one because I think the Sky so desperately need a point guard. And this is assuming they keep Kennedy Carter. So a lot of people would say, oh, are you not, why would you go for this player this high in the draft? I think it would be take her because you are scared that New York are going to do it, and it is Te-Hina Paopao. So Te-Hina Paopao is going to be the best shooter to play beside Kennedy Carter in that backcourt. She's going to walk right in as a starter. She's significantly better than when they were running. She's a significantly better player beside Kennedy Carter than a Lindsay Allen. I think Lindsay Allen's Lindsay Allen's a very good backup point guard, a very, very bad starting point guard in the W. But I think Te-Hina Paopao, it's just for fit reasons. The Sky needs spacing more than they need anything else. Like, you have to have 2 of the best shooters in the W, surrounding Cardoso, Reese, and Kennedy Carter to play the 3 of them at the same time. And that's why you need to take a Paopao, because that shooter is not available in free agency this year. And you'll see with who I have them taken later on. Like, the 4 young players in Kennedy Carter, when ultra young starting 5, could make some noise. But number 5, I think the Valkyries are going to take a Hollywood pick. I think they're going to take a player that's well known. I think it's going to be, because it's their first pick in their franchise, they're going to want to sell jerseys. And I'm not sure they're going to get anyone in the expansion unless somehow Kelsey Plum goes there. So I think they're going to take Azzi Fudd. Has Azzi Fudd played this year? No. She can shoot the ball. Is she the most exciting player? Not really. But she's a big name. She's UConn. She's probably not going to be worth a top 5 pick in general. But I do think that if you are an expansion franchise, you're going to want to make the Hollywood pick. You're going to want your draft pick to be the jersey seller. I think Azzi Fudd is the perfect thing for that. And she also shoots the lights out. That'll help in Golden State. With the 6th pick, the Washington Mystics have it. And I think the Washington Mystics, because the Mystics, again, they got all the talent in the world. They've got all the depth in the world. That I think they might take a swing on potential, especially if they lose Jane Melbourne. I think they're going to take the 18-year-old Ija Sivka. So, Ija Sivka she's 18. She's 19 in a couple of weeks. She will be the youngest player in the draft. I think either her or Malonga. I'm not sure who's younger. She's going to be one of the two youngest players in the draft. She's not playing in France, so she can come over straight away. And she's got interest in playing in the WNBA. After 3 seasons, she's going to be the same age as some rookies. Like, she's extremely young. She shoots really well. She's 6'4". She's a good defender. She can play a bit inside. She can play outside. She can pass. Is she going to be ready to play next year? No. But if the Washington Mystics get Paige Bueckers at number 1, they're not going to need Ija Sivka to come in and ball out straight away. Keep her in the roster. Heck, even just keep her rights and keep her in Europe for a year. She is, like, when we look at, like, levels of players, we've seen how important a Leonie Fibic can be. How important those type of, like, tall, versatile defenders that can shoot the ball are. There are not many of them in the W, and she is one of them. She is a 6'4" sniper. There are not many of them around, especially in America. Go to Europe, and still, even if it takes her 3 years to develop, even at the end of those 3, like, if she's even, let's just say she's barely good enough to crack the rotation next year or the year after. If it takes her till 2027 to crack the rotation, I'm pretty sure, is she younger than Juju Watkins? So Juju Watkins is born in July 2005. Ija Sivka is born in November 2005. Yeah. She's 4 months younger than Juju Watkins. So even if she's only good enough to be a good player in 2027, I'd still use that pick. I'd still use it now. But yeah, she's going to be, I'm going to take it number 6, especially with how stacked Washington are going to be. They can take a risk. And then number 7 is New York, and I can see them doing the exact same thing. If Sivka's available, they might take Sivka. I think they're going to draft and stash Dominique Malonga as a contingency plan. They're going to have Dominique Malonga. She mightn't come over in 2025. She's playing in France. She probably can't come over in 2025. But for 2026, 2027, the New York Liberty are a franchise where you're going to make more money playing for them a lot of times than you are going to be playing overseas, especially because She doesn't have to play in France. She can play in Spain. She can play in Turkey. She can play in any of these other countries and still play in the W. So she is the highest ceiling player in this draft. She's 6'6", plus 7 foot wingspan. She does everything. She can do everything on the floor as far as skills are concerned. Her athleticism is crazy. Her hands are really bad, though. She's not going to be ready straight away. But I would think the plan is draft her, keep tabs on her, bring her over when she's ready, keep her for 1 to 2 years with the kind of like tail end of Jonquel Jones' career. Have her playing backup for Jonquel Jones for a year or two, and then when Jonquel Jones is ready to pretty much be done or drop to a bench role, Dominique Malonga is ready. But I do think she is going to be the pick that the New York Liberty will take there, because they don't need any more players. They're good as is. They can just run it back. They have a max contract. Why not take the highest ceiling player in the draft? Now, the Indiana Fever. They can go... There are 3 players right now that are really, really like... We're talking about 3 players that are going to do 3 different things that could fit really well. You have got, starting in that Lexi Hull spot, Sonia Citron. You've got a player that can come in and take the Nalissa Smith role in Janiah Barker. But for me, I think with Steph White there, it's a team that's going to want to be gritty, defensive team as much as anything. And I think the player that helps their defense the most is Anissa Morrow. I think putting Anissa Morrow on that team gives them that little bit of like, you know the way I always say where I'm like, the Angel Reese level motor is what the Fever need. She's got the Angel Reese motor. She is almost as good a rebounder as Angel Reese. She will, she can't shoot at all. And that's the problem. Is if you are confident in her developing that 3-point shot, you can take her higher. But she just can't shoot at all. And she's a 6'1" power forward. The thing is that she plays with a high motor. She runs the floor. She plays defense. She's switchable. And she's just tough. She is a player that people were talking about the culture in Indiana, especially on the defensive end, it needs to change. And while, there are players that basketball-wise on the offensive end are going to fit in better, I think if Anissa Morrow is available at 8, I think Indy are going to take her. I think Indiana taking Morrow at 8 could be a very, very good pick for them. At number 9, the Seattle Storm. I think they're going to take Janiah Barker. I think, again, Barker is one of those players where it's like, she is almost like a unicorn. She is like, her ceiling is so high. She can handle a bit. She can shoot. She's 6'4". If I was Indiana, I'd be scared off her because a lot of her comparisons are freaking Nalissa Smith. As far as just on the court play. But Janiah Barker could be a really good player for a team like Seattle, because if you want to look at Seattle's bench last year, it was non-existent. Yes, Jordan Horston could play. Jordan Horston was a good bench player for the Seattle Storm, but that was it. Like Nika Mule didn't play at all. They were still playing Sammy Whitcomb as their backup point guard. So the Storm had a lot of issues with their bench. Let's be real. They had a lot of issues. Mercedes Russell, Victoria Vivians was playing good minutes. They had no depth. And look, Janiah Barker will be a good player for them to have off the bench. Then we are at the wrong thing. We are at the 10th pick, which is going to the Chicago Sky. And for me, the Chicago Sky, this is why I said if the Chicago Sky can go out with getting Pau Pau and Sonia Citron at 10, that's their shooting sorted. Maybe they don't start the year. Or if the Sky are like, you know what, we're in this for the long game, you start 4 first-year or second-year players. You start Carter, Pau Pau, Citron, Angel, Camilla. That team is super young. Super, super young. And look, young teams they're not gonna make the playoffs or anything with that team. But you have fixed your shooting problem. And you've still got players like Banham, Onyenwere, who will probably start the year as a starter. You've got all of these players still on the squad. And you've just, with these 2 picks in the draft, entirely fixed your shooting problem. And realistically, have fixed a lot of the issues with the fit of players, because again, you need snipers if you're going to run Kennedy Carter and the 2 non-shooting bigs. Then we are at pick number 11, and it is the Minnesota Lynx. And I think, imagine giving the Minnesota Lynx Cheyenne Sellers. Imagine giving them because look, all their players are under contract. They've got depth. Don't really have point guard depth, I will say. They don't have point guard depth. But imagine having somebody because of the way they play defense, if they want to run a bit more through Fee, I would rather have a like 6'2" defensive lockdown player instead of Hydeman, and who'll just do wild stuff. She's going to be one of the best defensive guard wings in the W. And I think the tall point guard mold is something that's not really used too much in the W, but I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the future years, especially with how the game is going to continue to play. And look, with the way the Lynx play, with their cutting, with their they have Courtney Williams for ISO, but that's really it. With their team ball, I think she could be great considering how good she is on defense. And with the last pick in the first round, the Phoenix Mercury take Maddie Westbald. She's a big shooter. Like, you can never... She's a stretch four. You can never have enough shooting. You can never have enough stretch fours. This is a team who ran Sophie Cunningham. It's a team who does play a lot of 4 out 1 in. Sophie Cunningham played a lot of 4 last year. And they play very little with 2 bigs on the floor. So having someone that can literally just spread and not be a shooting guard and shoot threes could be a really, really good pick. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. That is my mock draft for before the official draft lottery.